like to call the June 8th meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Authority members: Draymond.
Here.
Friedman.
Here.
Mincy.
Here.
Najarian. Parazian.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Chair Quintero.
Here. May we have your report?
The agenda for the June 8, 2010 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Thursday, June 3, 2010 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Next, please.
There are no minutes for approval for this meeting. It was an oral communication card submitted. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the Housing Authority may question or respond to a speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff through the Executive Director for investigation report.
I have one speaker card, Herbert Milano.
Housing Authority Chair Quintero, members of the Housing Authority, city staff, my name is Herbert Milano. Well, it is June. It's been also 2 years this month that this body, I guess, agreed to have the city staff prepare the quality of life indicators. So far, we don't have an official release, I believe, of those documents. It's 2 years. And I come here often to try to emphasize why it is so important to have those documents in a report funded by the city every year. This morning I went to visit a friend, family friend, who's dying of cancer, and he's at this hospital close to Temple and Hoover. I hadn't been there for more than 25 years, and it's just horrific. The deterioration of those neighborhoods on Temple, along Beverly Boulevard, you just cannot recognize that if you ever saw them. Horrific. You know, and I wonder how in the world can those neighborhoods get to be that bad that I truly felt as if I was in some city in Latin America. It is that horrific, and probably even worse. We don't know what is happening to the infrastructure unless we get a report on it. We don't know what is happening to the neighborhoods and the parks and the programs that are needed unless we get a continual report on how the city is performing. You know, and at the same time, you all know the tremendous salaries that Glendale, that the Department of Water and Power in Los Angeles get paid. Astronomical salaries. I mean, the government in LA truly looks like and behaves like governments in Latin America. It's horrific. You can forget everything about providing the basic needs and the basic maintenance of a city, while people who are, you know, have the inroads to the politicians gravel their money for themselves. It's horrific. You know, and it's not that we are that far away from it either. I can tell you, I requested from the California Public Records Act the payments made by the city to CalPERS going back to 2001. And I have a few here since 2003, because it's around that time that I started really getting active in looking at the budget. And I remember coming to make some very basic requests, like such as, can we have our sidewalks fixed? And the answer was that I would have to wait 12 years for it to be queued, and eventually we'll get that fixed. And that is the current status, a 12-year waiting time to get that fixed. And it wasn't until my neighbor, elderly neighbor in her 80s, tripped, fell, broke her hip, and died within 6 months, that I began asking questions. How often does this happen? How often does the paramedic pick up someone who falls on the street, breaks a hip, you know, and winds up at the hospital? It's daily. And so we think, why don't we put the money in there? Well, here's a check made out on December, let's see, January the 8th, 2003. The city expense, $407,000. This is the biweekly payment made from the employees, $407,000. Here's another check a year later, January 13, 2004. You know, this twice-a-month check was $500,987. You know, I began to look at this thing and say, wait a second. Yet we can pay this type of incredible pension costs and then not have an adequate park for, you know, recreational planning area 10 that hasn't had a single fraction of an acre in more than 30 years. Here it is, January 12, 2005. This time, the city's expense was $405,000. Here is January 11, 2006. By this time, the city's expense was $786,000. That's twice a month. And yet, I asked for the roads. I came here at one point in time with a curb, a section of the curb next to my house, brought it here, put it in front of the podium, say, why can't the city fix this? The deterioration is palpable. If I can lift and pick up a section of a curb, and then the city says, no, we don't have the money for that. But you have the money for this. I came across, the significant needs of the community development block grants. Entities that are truly creating the assistance that is needed for youth at risk. What was the answer? We don't have any money for that. And that has been the continual thing until I basically look at the tremendous salaries that are being paid, the humongous pensions. In 2001, the effective benefit to each employee in the fire department and the police department was an extra $1 million in additional pension. Additional. And in 2005, for middle managers earning over $150,000, that was another $1 million extra in pensions. And that's where we are. We are not taking care of the infrastructure. The thing is that we have to catch it now before it gets to the point where LA is right now. It's horrendous. And that's what I see. So when I see, and I'm driving throughout the city, and I see the deterioration, it is just one of the indicators. And that's why I ask for indicators, because it tells us where we're going. It tells us about the trends. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Mr. Quintero.
Okay, next, please.
Are there any authority member or staff comments?
Any authority members, staff comments? Mr. Freeman.
Well, I may not be very popular for raising this, but what is our plan with the quality of life indicators? I recall being asked when I was mayor about when we might see that. I remember being asked by a reporter from the Glendale News Press and about my sentiments on it. If we don't plan to release them at some point, we should just say that. If we do plan to release them at some point, we should talk about when. And if we're also not going to release them, we should also talk about why. There may be reasons. My feeling is this, if the reasons, and I'm not saying this is the reason because I don't know, but if the reason is that because there's some data there that is embarrassing or could be interpreted as embarrassing or giving the city a black eye or something, for whatever reason, we still should release it. And the reason is because we shouldn't be afraid of that kind of data. If you're afraid of data, then you can't use the data to improve.
Any comments from the staff? Mr. Starmer?
Let me respond, because it's not any of those issues. The first pullback was because of concerns that the report really wasn't doing a good job of representing the full picture, at least the extent that we could. And that work, I understand, has been completed by staff. We can be in a position of bringing the report to you in a relatively short period of time. Additional holdup has just been one of timing. You've been engrossed, and we've been engrossed in budget for quite some time. This has not been an easy period to kind of break away and do something else, but we can bring you a timing schedule, giving deference to the mayor in terms of the timing itself, and we'll let you know the status. We can do that easily.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
I have a comment
Yes.
on the election.
Yes.
Since today is election day, as a poll worker and as a citizen, I'm asking my fellow citizens, just get up and go to vote, because voter turnout is so low, the workplace, the poll place that I'm working at. Just get up and go to vote, okay? Thank you.
Ms. Friedman.
Yes, on Saturday afternoon, I attended along with other members of the Housing Authority, and Mr. Quintero was there, and Mayor Najarian, and both Ms. Parazian and Mr. Mincy were there, to the grand opening of the newest Habitat for Humanity project on Kenwood. And it was a great event. There were more people in attendance in the audience than I anticipated. They had a couple hundred people there. And a lot of those people were people who had participated either in raising funds or in building, pitching in all kinds of ways. So they were members of our community, members of nearby communities, and the 11 lucky families were presented with the keys to these homes. These families also have to participate by building and putting in their own labor and sweat equity into making these homes a reality. And it's it's a beautiful apartment complex. I mean, just the kind of thing that I don't think anyone could ever object to. It really upgrade a neighborhood. They look beautiful. They're all about quality of life for the people who live there. And, they improve the neighborhood. They improve the lives of the people who end up being homeowners for the first time ever. And it was just a wonderful event. And I really sincerely hope that the Habitat group is able to raise the money for their next project. I know they've been struggling with that, and they're getting closer, but it's been a really tough thing to do in this economy. And I look forward to seeing many more of these Habitat projects come online in Glendale. Thank you.
Mr. Mincy.
This was the largest habitat project for San Gabriel Valley that was a condo, where there were condos, because they had subterranean parking. They've been working on that. We've been working on that for 2.5 years. And it was just marvelous. Especially the looks on those families, how appreciative they are.
It was a great event, and there was a milestone in the sense that we did do the podium for the first time, which is really what you need in urban type of housing. But I also found it interesting. I'm not going to name the project, but there is another project that I drive by, and just private developer. And that project, compared to what Habitat for Humanity did, is not even close in terms of the design, the layout, just everything about it. What a difference between the two projects. But yeah, the families were so happy, and they do have to work. I mean, they're selected, and actually, I think even the kids, maybe not the smaller kids, but certainly the teenagers in these families also participate. So it was.
I just wanted to say one other thing, that one of the nice things about it, too, was that several of the families from other Habitat projects in the area, like the one on Pacific Edison, were also in attendance. So that was really special. And the families were so excited that a few of them were saying that they had committed to working on all of the other Glendale Habitat projects in the future. So it's just a wonderful thing that's about people giving back, and it feeds into itself as kind of that feel-good and helping out ball gets rolling. So it's a wonderful thing to see.
Mr. Freeman.
And by the way, on that project, one of you should mention, someone with a voice should mention, just to be clear, these are different from other types of projects because a private developer does not go out and build them, and the city doesn't go and build them. You might explain how those projects come to be built in the first place, physically come to be built.
Well, me too.
Yeah, somebody with a voice, somebody whose voice will last more than 2 seconds.
Actually, let's get Peter Zovak. He was there.
That's what you call a cue.
Let's get Peter Zovak to let the public know some details.
Peter personally pounds nails on these projects.
Right?
Correct. And then they pull them out and they redo them after I'm gone. Peter Zoak, Community Redevelopment and Housing. The Habitat for Humanity project was designed by local architect Vicky Barbieri, the Heritage Group, and volunteers, when they could use volunteers, came to the project. A number of companies, individuals came out, sponsored units, sponsored the development, and when necessary, certain unions were utilized, volunteer labor from unions, for specific trades that were considered above and beyond the realm of the ability of the volunteers. But I agree, it's the best designed project so far. Whether or not Habitat would want to do another subterranean or semi-sub parking project, that's another thing. But they're ready to move forward with the 5 units at Geneva and hope to come back before the authority with the DDA, hopefully within the next 6 months.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Tomek. Yeah, and we did forget to mention the trades that were there, the plasters and cement finishers and so forth that contributed to the overall design. It was really first class. Okay, if there aren't any other comments, we have no new business.
We adjourn?
We are adjourned.
Was there a second for that?
I'll second.